Okay, we are playing against Pittsburgh here at Smoky Mountain Invite. We are going to be running our pull play stopper on this first D point. So you see Wyatt get to the disc, and you'll see Levi here kind of set up in his spot to try to get in the way of a throw. You can see AK and Austin Jin playing under in the left and right spots. And you're going to see Gunner going to play tight on this person here. This is kind of what we want from our pull play stopper. Just give this person an easy throw to the trap sideline. We have Levi here in the middle for a reason, to kind of junk up the pull play, get them out of their plan, make them do something else. So this is what we are looking for. And here we're going to see a switch from Gunner. And I was trying to think of like a universal rule that I could say about this, but I don't think there is a good universal rule. You don't always want to switch to the thrower, and you don't always want to switch away from the thrower. This is an example of, I think, a bad switch where Gunner goes to the thrower and then just leaves a wide open person, basically in an upline with power position. I think in this case, hey, our pull play stopper is kind of designed to get them to the trap side. We're forcing backhand here. We got him on the trap side sideline. We don't need to like rush to get to the thrower. We can let Levi kind of come down and get to the thrower. We have some defender off to the left who must be doing nothing. They eventually will find this person, so we don't need to panic about that. So I would call this a bad switch from Gunner. Leaves power position into a backhand. It ends up being a bad throw. We're forcing backhand for a reason here because we think we thought their forehand flicks were better than their backhand hooks. So this ends up being a good D. You know, we get two players in the region and we get this ball down. Here, Gunner's person is going to try to junk up the lane and get in the way, which allows him to be free. In this moment where the disc hits this quarter of the field, I need Wyatt to make a horizontal slash across the field and get out of the way this way and kind of get underneath Dewberry. So Dewberry's going to frame up the offense for Gunner, or for Wyatt here, and Wyatt just has to follow Dewberry and get underneath him. That creates a big space here for downfield cutters to be attacking and for Gunner to be throwing into this space. We see Wyatt kind of just push vertically, brings his defender into this space. Someone's trying to attack here, so now we have two defenders. This is the space that Gunner would want to be throwing the frisbee, but now we have two defenders in the way. Levi makes a pretty nice upline. We get a good center. I think here Levi just has to like haul across in like a horizontal slash, get to that sideline, and then drop in and be in this space. You'll see Levi kind of run downfield though and be attacking, which I think we want cutters coming from the right of the screen in towards Seabass, and I think Levi just fills up a lot of space here. Seabass does really well just hitting this break throw to Dewberry. Also underrated Dewberry stepping into this disc to make sure he catches it. Number 3 was kind of coming in aggressive, so good strong catch from Dewberry. Good strong reset from Dewberry. I think it would have been nice if we could have gotten Dewberry to recognize that Levi is in the way of this throw and go, and this throw and go is not going to be dangerous. I think Dewberry is just going to end up bringing his person into the lane. Since Levi's here, since we're kind of like the give and go is not a great option, would have been nice to have Dewberry just turn off his right shoulder, get to this sideline, and start working his way up and stay underneath this structure. I like this 3-person structure that we have. I think Dewberry could just roll off and be right in this little space here. Instead, his person is able to kind of peel off and cover the lane. Here we've got Wyatt making a nice move. It would have been good to get a better look at Wyatt here, but Dewberry's defender is going to jump this up. And here we go, off the edge. AK does a good job attacking deep. His person's underneath him. He's wide of Seabass. I think it's good to start a deep cut from wide of your thrower. I think Seabass does a good job throwing a pretty flat throw. It's out in front. in this moment, hey, we got steps. It's a good throw. The ball's to the end zone. I think if we give AK another try there, he might come down with it. So I like that ball. I'm okay with that turnover. I think it was a good attack, and I think I think given another opportunity, we have a chance at that ball. Here we've got Bass giving Wyatt help over the top again. I think if you know you've got over the top help, you can kind of prioritize the around throw. We're going to see Wyatt get beat around. So AG's guarding Henry here. Henry's making a break side cut. This is an around break throw. That's just vertical break mark drill. So if you're wondering, how do I practice that? I mean, we do vertical break mark drill all the time. We're going to get another break throw. AG could have gotten that mark on faster. I think AG's playing good defense here. How do you go from good to great? Like, hustle, get that mark on, go faster. This is another example of what I think is like good defense, but how do you go from good to great? So Wyatt's person is about to get this touch. I think Wyatt's in a pretty good spot orbitally right now, but this ends up being just a lot of space, and this space makes it a really soft and easy reset. So I would say like orbit wise, I like where Wyatt is at, but space wise, I think Wyatt could compress this space and get a little closer. I don't think he needs to be in this person's personal space. I think like somewhere right here, still, give Wyatt like a step of cushion so that he can cover any upline move, but still be close enough to make this a little tighter. And as you see this person, if we go slow here, as you see this person make their back move, Wyatt's momentum is still kind of pulling him this way in this direction. So how do you go from good to great? Just be smoother about getting your momentum. See how Wyatt was still kind of drifting that way. Be smoother and faster about getting your momentum into the person. Here AG is in a good spot. He's back shoulder. That's where I told him to be. We just lose a little foot race here. How do you go from good to great? Hey, set up on top of them. Just start making this cushion smaller, right? So AG is afraid of getting beat deep. We want to stay on top, but this cushion can get smaller if we want to go from good to great, right? We can start compressing in on this person, get closer to Henry here, be able to contest that foot race a little better. Levi's about to give up a touch off screen, so it's hard to say how Levi could do better. The next touch is on Gunner's person. So Gunner is in a fine spot. He's all alone. This is a scary spot to be. It's just Gunner and his person. Pittsburgh has a ton of space here. This is a challenging spot. And Gunner finds himself underneath. So we've been coaching like get on top, get on top, get on top. But in this niche scenario, Gunner finds himself kind of underneath. I think Gunner can kind of wall up here and just like push his person, stay on this hip here, this left hip, and kind of like body and prevent this person from turning. But instead what we get from Gunner is a pretty slow drop step, and that's all that this Pittsburgh player needs to get open. Here's kind of another example, and it's interesting to compare and contrast them. So in the previous moment, Gunner was underneath his person, and here Wyatt does a good job to stay on top. And I think Wyatt actually does really well. So similar situation, it's just 1v1. Pittsburgh has a ton of space. They can attack in a lot of ways. Wyatt gets on that top hip. He gets on top of them, and he pushes this player right into the phone booth, and Wyatt is like really, really close. So how do you go from good to great? I mean, maybe there's a layout lane. Maybe we take the inside shoulder and try to lay this out. Maybe we take the outside shoulder and try to lay this out, but we're really, really close. So I think that's pretty good defense. I think what we're going to see here is Gunner really lose his person. So Gunner's just running with his hips straight towards the end zone. His person's breaking down. All of a sudden there's a lot of space here. I think we really need to be hustling to close this space. This ends up being just like a lot of space that we're giving, especially in the end zone set. We kind of got to get on a hip and stick a hip, which creates a pretty easy touch then to the other side. And here's a tough moment, right? So this This disc pops. We're covering it pretty well. Like AG is like pretty close to a hip. Levi's locking up. Gunner, I think, is giving too much space. I like where Gunner is on the orbit. Could be closer. This ball pops up and we get people under it, but we just can't get it down. So I think, that's one we left on the table. I think we got to get that Frisbee down. I think we kind of have a tendency to jump too early often. I think I see us do that a lot. So that's frustrating. We just left one on the table there. Okay, this is our second D point. We come out with our 3-3-1 here, and it's a good 3-3-1. I think this is kind of like the first game where I think we realized, hey, our 3-3-1 is pretty good. This does its job. It gets them out of their pull play. It makes them, this is a team that wants to set up plays and run an action and run choreographed stuff. So this kind of takes them out of it and forces them to improvise a little bit. I think what I notice is that Pittsburgh only crashes this cup a couple times. So two things. I don't think Pittsburgh's going for it a lot. And also the cup does a good job of just managing those crashes. So an adjustment that we made during the tournament that I'll just let everyone know about is we talked about, does this front four structure, can we adjust it based on the way that the other team is attacking us? So if they are crashing our cup all the time, we might want this structure to be shorter. And when I say shorter, I mean like along the end zone to end zone axis, the vertical axis of the field, we want to be shorter along that axis. And if they're trying to drop into the soft space, if they're throwing scoobers or blades into our soft space behind us, maybe we just get longer. So if we're a long structure, it's going to be hard to defend crashes. And if we're a short structure, it's going to be hard to defend the soft spot. So here, Pitt just throws a blade to the soft spot. And we do a pretty good job of just breaking out and transitioning into person defense. So we transition really quick. It doesn't turn into a breakaway. And here we've got a chance in the end zone set where we can just all watch Jedi here. So Jedi is in a good spot right now, but he's very tall, right? So he's standing up, his knees are kind of locked. We need Jedi to have his hips dropped here. We need him to get his feet under him and be ready to run. And here he's leaning back on his heels. He's falling backwards. He's off balance. His person's leaning into his run. There's like no way Jedi is going to win this foot race. And that turns into a goal. So I think Jedi loses this one all the way back here when he's standing up. And then he's really toast when he's backpedaling and kind of leaning backwards as his person's going full speed. So that's just getting set up. That's just dropping your hips, keeping your feet under you, being ready to play. Okay, here we get Pittsburgh in a side stack, and we're forcing backhand into the stack, which is really good for us. It compresses Pittsburgh down. It kind of pulls them out of their pull play. It makes, the space that they thought they were attacking is not the space that they are attacking. So whatever their set is, it breaks down, and they have to play improv, which is what we wanted. So we do a good job. I think as I watch this, I would like to point out AK's defense on this first play. So here we got AK 1v1 in a lot of space. This is a difficult spot to be in, and AK is just stride for stride with this person and breaks down and sticks them really well. So I think that's pretty impressive defense that we see from AK. Dewberry's person's about to get the touch. It is going to be a break throw, but here we've got Dewberry like right on the person, and as we watch, they create, I think this is pretty good defense from Dewberry, but it's a broken mark to the break side. So that's just vertical break mark drill. Here's another one where we just kind of get broken in motion. So that's just vertical break mark drill. Levi's going to do a good job covering this. I love how Levi turns and stays in the pocket as this person goes. Wyatt does a good job covering this one as well, but this ends up being a break mark. That's just horizontal break mark drill as we watch this. I mean, we do horizontal break mark drill once a week usually, so that's how we can get better at that. This is another horizontal break mark drill, so we can improve by just working harder when we do horizontal break mark drills and maybe taking those drills a little more seriously. Here we're going to see Wyatt run through Gunner. I think maybe we could have thought about calling a pick there, especially since Gunner's person's about to get this touch. For sure, could have called a nice pick. That's too much space now between Wyatt and this person, so I think I would like Wyatt to kind of hold this positioning all the way through. And this break, I do think we probably should have called a pick because now we have a lot of space here. This ends up being way too soft from Wyatt. Wyatt was in a good spot. He had to get out of the way because of that pick that we didn't call. And that ends up being a really easy touch. We do a good job to slow him down. That's a break. Bass hustles around, right? It would be nice to have everybody hustling around like Bass does. We're going to do pretty good. You know, this is good defense. How do you go to great? I guess Wyatt could just have closed that space. I like where Wyatt is on the orbit. He could compress that space more is how you go to great. Little give go there, but we slow down their action again. I think Wyatt is in a good spot here. How do you go from good to great? Close this space down, get in this person's personal space, kind of get a touch on this right hip. I think that would have helped a lot. They're going to pull out with a break throw. This is pretty well defended from AG. And then here we just kind of lose our person. I think Bass is just running out of gas. So how do we fix that? You know, run harder during our 120s. Also, you know, maybe Bass can think about calling a pick here. I think that is within 10 feet. It's pretty close, but I think we just run out of gas there, and we kind of miss a switch call or have a late switch call. So all in all, I would say this is like pretty good defense. Like we are close on every single one. How do we go from good to great? I think we just start compressing the spaces, tightening up the spaces, the cushion. Give them less cushion. Here's our second 3-3-1 point against Pittsburgh, and it's another really good one. I think our 3-3-1 was really good against Pittsburgh. I think this is kind of when they started having their coming out party. As I watch this front structure, I think the biggest thing that stands out to me is how well they all kind of move in unison. They all get going at the same time. They close spaces really well. I love how Bana, we can all look at Bana here for a second, gets his head around. Look at what he's doing. He's seeing this person. He's going to a person. He's not just floating around aimlessly in space. Bana's moving with intentionality. I like that a lot. We can see Bana's head move all the time. He's checking left. He's checking right. Theo does the same thing. Theo's also a really good wing. We can see Theo's head going all over the place. He's checking. So a really good wing play from Bana and Theo here. Here's a nice step up from Bana. High stall. Okay, maybe I'll step up. I think that's a good step up from Bana. Front cup is doing really, really good. They're moving together. They're staying together. Their structure is pretty awesome. We're making them throw a lot of throws. That's what we want them to do. We don't want them running their play. We got them out of their first 6. This is a call from Nate. It is no foul. This stays with Henry. I think this is where he throws a scuba. Nope, just a dish. But we're doing really well. I mean, we're keeping them in front of us. We're making them throw a lot of passes. I think that's kind of the goal. And it's not aggressively windy, right? At regionals, it might be aggressively windy. This will be a lot better in those scenarios. They don't attack the soft spot like they did in the first point, so they're trying to just throw a million dishes and I think we do really good. They're completing a lot of passes to not get a lot of places. So here's the scoober from Henry, and you got to watch LJ just drop to cover the scoober here. LJ doesn't go to the frisbee, right? He goes to the next space, which is right here. He's hustling to kind of get this person locked up and then just get in front of the disc, right? So, or I mean behind the disc or whatever. So LJ gets to this spot and he slows the momentum down. So that could have been a jailbreak, but instead we are like within 2 throws, our entire cup is able to get behind the disc and slow their momentum down. And we're able to stay in our structure, which is really good. And I think even if we just like had snapshots of this structure, this is like pretty textbook stuff. So it's really good. I think the wing play from Theo and Bana is also really good. It's a big part of what's making this successful. Here you can see Theo is doing a lot of work. Theo's not just like playing zone to save energy. He's like hustling here to cover that angle. And here you're going to see him look around and be like, oh, what adjustments can I make? So very active wing play, very smart wing play from both Bana and Theo. I think this is kind of the point in time where it's like, let's start taking a gamble. Let's lay out on the mark. Let's do something crazy. Nate's kind of does that, which is nice. But yeah, this is kind of the part where we want to start gambling as a front four. We want to start doing crazy things, make them uncomfortable. I think our sidelines could be yelling scary things. I think if the whole sideline is yelling gamble, that's pretty terrifying for a thrower. We're doing a good job yelling yeah and clapping, but I think we should be yelling scary things like pull the trigger or like something like that. I think Pittsburgh hears that and it might freak them out a bit. I think we did a better job gambling against the NC State game, especially late. So if we just go back, and if this is how they're going to score, I think we take it. They throw a little blade for a goal. So that's a very good 3-3-1 set. We slowed them down, made them throw a million passes. I think we have to have some kind of like internal clock where it's like, okay, we're at past 50 right now. Let's do something crazy in the front four. All right, here's our 5th defensive point, and this is our one easy bucket of the game. So I guess I was afraid we would give up a lot of easy buckets in this game. I think Pittsburgh's pull plays are really good. When they can set something up, it's really good. I was afraid there would be a lot of easy buckets. So one easy bucket out of 10 D points, I would say that's a success. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if we're forcing backhand here or forehand here, but somehow the sideline yells at Wyatt to go no around, which just creates a really big hucking window. As we watch AK here, I would actually say this is pretty good defense from AK. So AK gets into their pocket, like right here, right shoulder to shoulder, hip to hip. He's fighting to box out, stride for stride with this person. I think that's pretty good defense. I think, yeah, I mean, it's tough. The outcome is not great. It's not what we wanted. But, I mean, we have a defender there. We're in their hip pocket. We have a chance at this D, and it just doesn't fall our way. So I don't hate the process. I hate that. I think the sidelines deserve some blame for telling Wyatt to go no around. But all in all, I think, we're pretty close, and it's not the end of the world. Here's D point number 6 that we played against Pittsburgh. We come down in the pull stopper here. We see the split 2-3 split stack, and we break out of our pull stopper and we just go person. I think whoever called that was a good adjustment. Prevent a lot of confusion. Levi does a good job just standing right in the middle of the play, junking things up. And then this is just all that happened here. We can go back. So on the 3 stack side, the 2 under are just flooding across. Dewberry's person is just coming right down. So this very classic play. I don't think we're very surprised by it. We get broken on the mark to get here. So we go back, we can watch AK kind of cover this. AK's person is about to get open in the middle of the field. AK's very close. He's all over his person here. Slow it down. I think he does a pretty good job playing person defense here. All over this. And even turns pretty good with him. I think that's a pretty good turn. I think that's pretty good coverage from AK. I think what I'm seeing from Wyatt here is similar to the comments that I might have had. Maybe like 0.1 or 0.3. But the orbital spot is good. It's just this is kind of a lot of space, especially when we're this close to the disc. I think when we're so close to the disc, we want to collapse this space here. I think where Wyatt is in the orbit is good. I just want him to like get on. I want him to get into their personal space, right? Like if you're on the light route and somebody goes and stands really close to you, it's like, whoa, dude, what's your problem? I want you to get that close. That ends up being an easy reset. Here, AG's person is going to touch the disc. This is a broken mark. I think Wyatt's going to find himself in the exact same spot. I like where he's at orbitally, right? I like where he's at on top. I think we can just collapse this down. We can get into their personal space a lot more, make that more challenging of a reset. This is a little give and go. I think we cover it okay from AG, and then Wyatt just loses a foot race here. So hitting the track workouts is important. This is really, as we watch AG cover Henry on this, I love that he is fighting for the top hip. He's fighting for that right hip and trying to get on top of Henry. Then he gets inside and he does a good job walling up. Here again, I think Wyatt could just be touching, right? We could just collapse this space. We could be in their personal space. Same thing with Wyatt. Just go get a touch on their body. And then this is another broken mark. And this is another D that I think we left on the table if we had like better awareness of the back of the stack or some kind of help. But Pittsburgh was more aware than we were in that moment. And yeah, they made us pay for it. Here we are, D point number 7. They're going to come out and avert stack and do a very classic play. So front of the stack, peels off, is going to cut deep this way. Back of the stack is just going to make a move straight down this lane here. Very classic play. A lot of people are running this. I think Austin Chin, if we can watch him here for a second, does a pretty good job recognizing, and he doesn't choo-choo train, right? He kind of starts breaking down and trying to get on top of Henry early. He's not like, Austin's not just like sprinting past Henry here. But still, we kind of lose this foot race, right? And in this moment, we're already beat. So how do you go from good to great? It's like, hey, be on top of them in this moment. Read that play a little faster. And then we're going to notice here comes the other side, right? So Henry went down this path. This person's going to come in on this path. This is now to the break side, and our mark gets broken. So that's just vertical break mark drill. This person's open, but the mark, AK does a good job of getting around and getting really active on the mark. I think that prevents, that helps Jedi out. This is where Austin Jin pays for getting beat by Henry. So if we back up, you know, Austin's beat kind of a long time ago. In this moment, he's probably fine, but all of a sudden we lose steps and it just gets bigger. Henry takes him downfield somewhere. And when they come back into the screen, there's just way too much space. So this is, you know, how do you go from good to great? You got to close those spaces down, be a lot closer, get on a hip. Not a whole lot of mystery. I'm pretty sure Henry just sprinted deep and then chopped his feet and came back under. This here is just a horizontal break mark drill. So I think we could, take horizontal break mark drill a little more seriously. Here's Levi, kind of in the same spot that Wyatt is in, that I've called out a whole bunch of times. And as we watch Levi, my advice to Wyatt was always get in the body, compress the space. So Levi's in the same orbital spot that Wyatt was in all those clips, but Levi's just like up in there, right? Like closing that space down. You would not want to stand on the light rail next to Levi like this. And it makes it a lot harder, right? It's not just a free throw. It's not just a free reset. And Levi even is like close enough to put a challenge on that disc. I think it's pretty good. Levi drops off, he gets wide. He sets up his mark here. This is just horizontal break mark, right? This move right here. Levi knows where he's at on the field. This is good awareness. Gets them to look at their reset. I think Bass could get closer too. I think Bass could take a step in. I like where we're at orbitally. I think our orbits are fine. See how Bass is real close now? This guy's making a lot of dances, a lot of jukes, but because Bass is up in their grill, because he's got that compressed, because he has that compressed space, we're able to contest this much better. This ball is actually going to Henry over here, so AK's person. If we back up, or AG, I'm sorry. AG's part is right here with a hand on. I think we're in a good spot. So I think that ends up being fine. I think we could have, just stayed compressed, right? Keep a hand on. Why did we take the hand off? I think right now, let's just leave it on. Especially as they start making this move, like keep your right hand on their hip or something. Push them into that backfield. I think we could be a little closer. I think this is like a good example of what I would call like an acceptable level of pressure on the defense, right? So as this person's catching it, AK is like right on their hip. I think that's how you play high level defense, right? Giving people big spaces. The difference between being this close, here's AG when Henry's catching the disc, and the difference between this clip, right? This space is a lot different, right? And when you're trying to decide who's good at defense and who should be playing more, the people that are compressing the space are the ones that are going to get more play time. AG does a good job on this upline. He plays under it, which I'm not a huge fan of, but he does a really good job of staying close, right? So he's in the hip the whole way, and they end up looking it off. What we're about to see here is Paul is gonna like leave his person to try to help on this lane over here. I think what I like that Paul takes gambles. I think what I need from Paul is to be more intentional about his gambles. Why are you helping in this lane? Do you see someone maybe over here that's about to come under and get open? Do you see that AG is like really burned badly and needs help? I don't see either of those things. I think AG is totally fine right here. He's in a fine spot. He doesn't need help, especially with Bass kind of showing for AG here. And also there's no active threat about to come into the lane. So I see this as like, hey, Paul just went into the lane to kind of help on no one or to take nothing away. I also am not, as I watch this film, I'm not seeing Paul look at the lane. I'm only seeing Paul look at the disc. And that just creates a really soft around that gets continued because Paul's so far away. This is a little slip pass, I think, coming to AK's person. There it is. And then a little blade to the goal. Here we go, D point, number 8. Wyatt to the disc, Levi to the middle, junking up their play set. They're running a flood play, so just pretty straightforward flood play. All these people are coming across the field, and then we're going to get one person kind of running down into this space. I actually think Seabass does a good job of reading this play and ending up being pretty close. We're doing our pull stopper, which is why AG AG and Dewberry must be talking over here because AG is going to leave and Dewberry is going to hustle to 14. So at this point, we're locking up, and I think that's good. As we watch AK, this is a pretty good move by the Pittsburgh player. So I want to be watching AK's person here. So I think AK's covering really well. AK's in a really good spot here. And then we're going to see kind of like a jab step, right? He's going to get onto his left foot. And that jab step here is going to get him onto AK's back. And at this point, AK is beat. It's a nice move by the Pitt player. I think we could probably all learn. We could all add that to our offensive skill set, is this little jab step. This is why it's dangerous to get on someone's back. So as you'll see here, they make that move. That creates a lot of separation. So as an offensive player, I think more of us could be trying to get on our person's back, spin them around a little bit, and get open. This is where we lock up. Here's another good example. I kind of talked a bit about Wyatt quite a bit, having not enough. Wyatt giving too much space. And then here's an example of Dewberry kind of stepping in and compressing that space. So Dewberry's in the same orbital spot that Wyatt was in all those previous examples. It's just this space is quite a bit smaller. Also, we have to watch AK's mark here because it's a very good mark and he's working really hard and he goes hard on this no around. So Dewberry just closing this space down, AK just like putting on a really active high energy mark. That forces a bad throw and we get a possession out of this. I think we do a good job of picking up and going. We have a chance here, and this just ends up being a turned over swing. So that's a frustrating one, but I think later in the tournament we talked through this with AK, Levi, and Bass, and I think we have a solution moving forward. So hopefully we don't see that too much often. And then here's the goal. So Gunner's here on this person. This is just a horizontal move that goes deep. This is kind of what I was trying to teach all fall long. We've done offensively, we were doing this drill a lot throughout the fall. I wanted us to be doing this in our offensive set. It's really difficult. So you make a horizontal move, you bust deep, and you can burn someone. So right here, kind of Gunner's going this way, and all of a sudden, boom, turn their weight against them, and it's a goal. So if I go back and I go back to here, what do I need from Gunner? I kind of need Gunner to get like a touch on this outside hip, especially like right now. Gunner's like leaning in towards the disc. This is a little too casual. I think this is the jab step that he's going to turn off of. I think we could just get a touch on the body, and I think that would have helped a lot to anticipate the turn deep. D point number 9. So this is our 3-3-1 again. Again, they do a really good job in this point. Again, you can see a lot of really good wing play from Bana and Theo. As you look at like how Bana's hips are, right, he's kind of opening himself up to a lot of the field. Theo's going to do the same thing. You're going to see really good structure from the front four again. They move really well together. They move kind of at the same time. I love how Nate is starting to get more and more aggressive in the front. Taking more chances is good, especially from Nate's spot. You're going to see LJ's kind of sinking deeper. He's getting longer. I think we might have talked about that on the second point. So he starts to get longer to challenge that scuba or that blade space. You can see that our length is coming longer. They were not crashing this cup, so there is an advantage for us to get longer if they're not going to be crashing the cup. And then this is finally, we get a mistake from Pitt. We take our time to set up. It's a good move by Theo. As we watch Theo make this move, it's just a one-footed, boom, right off his right foot there. We get in. It's a nice move. And then this is good recognition from Nate that no one's guarding him. And boom, that's a goal, 2 feet down. Great play from D2. I love the quick adjustment on the cup too, right? The getting longer versus shorter was an idea that we talked about in the middle of this game, and we made that adjustment on the fly in the middle of the game. So I think great point from D2 there with the zone. D point number 10, it's another zone point, 3-3-1. It's another good zone point. In this point, you'll see Pittsburgh do a lot more crashing of the cup, and it works pretty good, but our zone recovers every time, I think, pretty nicely. So here's a crash that we recover from, get our structure in front of the disc again. I think the next crash, they are able to continue for 2 passes, but we are able to recover again. LJ does a nice job here. If we just watch LJ hustle to get on, to slow down the path of the disc, that allows our structure to reset. I think this group, this front four, is doing a really good job again, slowing them down. Even against the crashes, we're able to like recover every time. Here, Nate gets a hand on this disc. I would call this the third D that we left on the table. So that's a wobbly disc. We just didn't come down with it. Or we just didn't finish. Jedi is about to use some Jedi mind tricks to make this person injured. So good job, Jedi. Injury sub comes on. And we wall up really nicely here. So they're about to throw a whole bunch of passes and not gain a whole lot. They're going to pull it back. It's going to take them a while to break through. Someone does a really good job. I think they pull this one back too. I think our structure even recovers. I think Nate is going to start to get a little aggressive at the front of the zone, which I think is good. I think you got to have that clock in your head of like, okay, how many passes has this been? When do I start gambling? When do I start? So there's the gamble that I was expecting. When do we start gambling? When do we start doing something crazy? And this is good. Like, you know, why not lay out on the mark? I think that's good. And he even recovers. Nate's up and on his feet, working hard to recover. Theo with a good gamble there too. That guy didn't like it though. He's clapping. But we've walled up nicely in the end zone set. So making them throw a lot of passes, making them think about it, making them try, you know, scoobers or more difficult throws. And I think this is about to be the final draw. So Bass just takes a little gamble upward, which is fine. I'm okay with that gamble. And then they recognize it and hit the soft spot. So I would say another good point out of the zone. And I liked the increased number of gambles that I saw in this one.